The password is my little brother's birthday," my daughter said, handing me the phone. "I've had my suspicions for a while. Apparently, I have a little brother." "Huh? Does that mean?" "Yes, exactly." I entered his birthday as my daughter had instructed into the phone, and it was quickly unlocked. With trembling hands, I looked at the contents of the phone. "Wait, what is this?" As I scrolled through the phone screen, I felt my heart racing. This feeling must be what people call heart-wrenching. Convinced that my husband was cheating on me, I said to my daughter, "I can't forgive him. Sky, let's pack up and leave this house right now." My name is Cameron. I'm a 42-year-old housewife who works at a local pub part-time. I live with my husband, Malcolm, who is the same age as me, and our 17-year-old daughter, Sky. I used to work at a company, and Malcolm and I were colleagues. We got married after only 1 year of dating, so it happened really quickly. However, I had no hesitation. Malcolm and I shared the same values, and I was deeply attracted to his gentle nature. Shortly after we got married, I became pregnant and left my job. Surrounded by a kind, family-oriented husband and a lovely daughter, my life was nothing short of happiness. And I continued to be a full-time homemaker for a while, but I started a part-time job 3 years ago. The reason was because the performance of my husband's company had deteriorated. I heard that some of his colleagues had been laid off, so it seemed like he was one of the fortunate ones who still have a job. However, his income dropped significantly, and we were struggling to make ends meet on his salary alone. I had no choice but to start working, but I didn't want to neglect my responsibilities at home, so I searched for part-time jobs at pubs. The working hours at pubs were in the evenings, and that would allow me to take care of household chores and our daughter during the day. Fortunately, there was a small local pub nearby with a sign looking for staff, so I applied without hesitation, and that marked the beginning of my life as a housewife with a part-time job. It was a challenging life, working in the evenings and returning home in the early morning. When I returned from my part-time job, I would prepare breakfast for my family, do the laundry, and make lunch for my daughter. Naturally, my sleep was greatly reduced, and it was physically demanding. Moreover, Malcolm, who left for work in the morning and came home at night, and I hardly ever saw each other. But I enjoyed my work at the pub, and the owner and other staff members were all wonderful people, so I managed to get through it. It really helped that my daughter was proactive in doing things around the house. When my perceptive daughter sensed that I was tired, she said, "Mom, don't push yourself." And she would make me sit down and take over the household chores. One day, an unexpected event occurred. As I was getting ready for my part-time job as usual, I received a phone call from the owner of the pub. I was told that the kitchen equipment had broken down and we couldn't use the kitchen. He then had a repairman look at it and was told that the problem was more serious than he had anticipated and that it would take a week to refurbish. In the meantime, we can't open the pub. Naturally, the staff can't work either, so the owner apologetically said, "I'd like you to take a week off." After ending the call with the owner, I let out a sigh. Well, this is a problem. Even though I don't make much money to begin with, it is still a problem to not get paid for a week. Ever since my husband's income had decreased, we've been tight financially. If we don't have my part-time income, we would immediately fall into the red. However, maybe this is an opportunity, I thought to myself. I had been working tirelessly, sacrificing sleep and never cutting corners on household chores, and my body was reaching its limit, to be honest. This renovation might give me a good chance to rest and spend time with my family. As for living expenses, we could manage with some economizing. With these thoughts in mind, I decided to spend the day leisurely. I had already prepared dinner, thinking I would be going to work. I sat on the couch in the living room and started watching a drama I had recorded with my daughter, who had just returned from school. My husband came home in the evening. "Wait! Cameron, you're home!" My husband, who's come to the living room, exclaimed in surprise. "Yes, I got a call from the owner, and it seems there's trouble with the equipments in the pub. They're doing renovation work, so I have a 1 week off." I explained the situation to my husband. He responded with a noncommittal, He looked somewhat disgruntled, apparently not happy that I am taking time off work. Despite sensing my husband's unease, I spoke cheerfully. We'll be fine even if I take a week off. We can manage the living expenses. Besides, we can have a dinner together for the first time in a long time. I'll prepare it quickly, so please wait. Then, I got up from the couch, put on an apron, and headed to the kitchen. I turned on the stove to warm up the food in the pot. However, "Sorry, I don't need dinner tonight," my husband said and hurriedly left the living room. "What?" I was surprised and followed him with my eyes. My husband went into his room, closed the door, and even locked it. Then I heard some rustling sounds of some sort of work being done. What in the world was going on with my husband? I was baffled. I was looking forward to having a relaxing talk with my husband for the first time in a long time, but he locked himself in his room. About 10 minutes later, my husband came out of his room. "Hey, what's going on with you?" I yelled at the sight of my husband's strange appearance. He was carrying Boston bags full of his belongings in both hands, looking as if he was about to go on a trip. I was stunned, and my husband said to me, "Actually, there's been a problem at work. I need to stay overnight to handle it, so I have to go back to the office now." "Oh, that's not good." I was disappointed that I couldn't spend time with my husband when I had the time off from my part-time job, but if it was a work problem, it can't be helped. My husband worked as a site supervisor, and according to him, he would have to work through the night to deal with a problem, so he packed his things to stay overnight and now has to go back to work. Still, my husband's behavior was odd. "What kind of trouble happened exactly?" I asked my husband, who was about to go back to the office, but he replied vaguely, "Well, it's a bit of this and that." He didn't give me a clear answer. I became worried, so I asked more. "This and that? Are you okay? Is it very serious?" Even then, my husband only replied vaguely, "Yeah, it's probably a bit serious." As my husband hurried toward the door, I had a bad feeling, so I grabbed his arm and asked, "You'll be back by tomorrow evening, right?" He hesitated and said, "Maybe not tomorrow." "What? It's going to take that long?" "Sorry, I might not be able to return for a few days." With that, my husband left with his luggage. Left behind at home, I was filled with indescribable anxiety. This might be the first time I had ever felt like this since marrying my husband. This is how my long break began in his absence. 1 week later. The renovation work at the pub was completed without a hitch, and starting from that very evening, I was back to work. During my time off, my husband never came home, not even once. Of course, I was in contact with my husband. He had been telling me that he would be working late into the night every day due to the problem. I was worried about my husband's health, so I called him every evening. However, with each call, I began to feel a growing sense of suspicion. My husband claimed he was dealing with issues at the site, but I couldn't hear any background noise during our calls. While his voice sounded fine, something seemed off. There didn't appear to be a major problem, and I started to be suspicious of my husband. And my bad premonition was right on target. A shocking fact about my husband came to light. A few days after the pub reopened, I returned home at 4 in the morning after finishing my night shift. To my surprise, I found my husband's shoes in the foyer. It seemed that my husband, who was away from home for a long time,